إن الحمد لله نحمده سبحانه ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله تعالى فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أما بعد. On a dark night, and this is in the 13th year after the Prophet ﷺ had received the message of Islam, the mushrikeen, they gathered in Darul Nadwa. Actually, the leaders of them, of Quraysh, they gathered. And as they were about to close the door, an old man came and he requested permission to join the gathering, to join the halaqah. And so they allowed him to join. And that last man who had entered with them was Iblis. And as they gathered around, they were discussing a most evil plot. And that was what to do with the Prophet ﷺ. And so the first man said, "Let us jail him, put him in chains, never let him see the light of day again." And so Iblis said in reply, "Wallahi ma hadha bi ra'i." By Allah, this is not a correct opinion. He said, because if you jail him, then his news of his jailing will go out to everyone and the message will spread. And so they thought. And then the second man said to them, "Why don't we expel him from this land?" And so Iblis said to them, "Wallahi ma hadha bi ra'i." By Allah, this is not an opinion. This is not a correct opinion, because if you expel him, he will get stronger and then he will come back and take you over. And so they sat quietly until Shaqiyuhum said, "Why don't we kill him?" But not just any Arab killing him. We gather one person from every tribe to join in the murder of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And Iblis said, "That's the correct opinion." And Jibreel alayhi salam came to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And actually, you might have heard from the seerah that it was a few days later. It wasn't. It was that exact day they had plotted to murder the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Dear brothers and sisters, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam in Bukhari and Muslim, عن أبي هريرة رضي الله تعالى عنه قال: سمعت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يقول: بينما راع في غنمه عدا عليه الذئب فأخذ منها شاة فطلبه الراعي فالتفت الذئب فقال: ما لها يوم السبع يوم ليس لها راع غيري. The Prophet ﷺ said that a shepherd was out with his sheep one day when a wolf came and attacked one of the sheep. And so he grabbed and mangled the sheep and ran away with it. And as the wolf was running away, the shepherd ran after the sheep. This is in Bukhari and Muslim. And so the shepherd chasing the wolf then turned and spoke to the shepherd. And the wolf said, "If today you're protecting the sheep, then who will protect this sheep on the day of savagery, when there will be no shepherd for this sheep to protect it except me?" Meaning the day the wolf becomes the shepherd, who will protect the sheep? And as one of the poets said, وَرَاعِ الشَّاةِ يَحْمِ الذِّئْبُ عَنْهَا فَكَيْفَ إِذَا الرَّعَاةُ لَهَا الذِّئَابُ. He says, this poet, he said, وَرَاعِ الشَّاةِ, the shepherd of the sheep, the flock, his job is to protect the sheep. And there's no protector except the shepherd. Then what will happen on the day when the wolf becomes the shepherd? And you can just imagine the annihilation and destruction that will happen to that sheep. And so the title for this lecture, and it's a very amazing title, very provocative and makes you think. The title of this lecture is When Wolves Become Shepherds. When Wolves Become Shepherds. And insha'Allah ta'ala, I know, as the brother said, we might have question and answer, but actually this topic is very long, so bear with me insha'Allah. I promise you, insha'Allah, that you're going to love this lecture. I'm very excited about this lecture, and bi'idhnillah, nobody's going to cut me off. But this is my first time in Dallas, so I don't know if you guys are going to cut me off or not. But you will cut me off? Black belt though. So you cut me off and get ready. Who is Shaytan? I thought about this. Who is Iblis? And I thought of an interesting way to explain a little bit about who Iblis is. So I imagined, what if Iblis, you know how some people, they waste their life watching late night, what are those things called? Interviews? Late night talk shows. They watch late night talk shows. One of the famous late night talk shows is Jay Leno. And so what if Jay Leno's celebrity guest for tonight was Iblis? This is something, I'm going to give you a little glimpse of how the interview would go. That's all right? So he says, ladies and gentlemen, Iblis. So Leno says to him, Leno, what's your name? Iblis. Despair. Do you have a last name? The accursed one. Leno, I understand you used to work for God. Iblis, I used to work for God in the company of God and angels. And so Leno asks, what's your goal in life? What's your goal in life? Iblis, to annihilate and condemn every son and every daughter of Adam and Hawa, and I will never leave them until they reach hellfire. And I have lots of years of experience, thousands of years of experience, over 1 trillion people served to hellfire. Leno, you look totally energetic. You don't have your back on the wall or anything. You have a lot of energy. How old are you? I'm as old as humanity's father. In fact, I'm a little bit older than humanity's father. Leno, you seem almost invincible. Almost. I used to be like that when I was 16 years old, and there's laughter from the audience as Leno says this. He says, tell us, seriously, do you have any weaknesses? Iblis, tonight in this lecture, you will find out my weakness. Dear brothers and sisters, this is a little glimpse, and actually, subhanAllah, as I began preparing for this lecture, there's a lot to this, much more than the timing that we have for this halaqah. Because subhanAllah, this is war, that we're against Shaytan. And when you plan for war, you don't just sit in a 25, 30-minute halaqah. You sit day and night preparing and protecting yourself and protecting your family. And actually, the subtitle for this lecture was Shaytan's Dawah Techniques. And the subtitle is that you better know these techniques or you'll regret it. I almost feel sorry for the people that walked out of this lecture. They turned their backs just for that moment. They may have missed something, and Shaytan may be already distracting them. And we're going to be talking about those techniques, insha'Allah. So what I want to do from all of you is to pay attention to this lecture, sit up straight, insha'Allah, get ready to focus completely with determination, like Shaytan has massive determination. Have determination and commitment in what you are doing. Have determination and commitment that you will extract that information and that you will share it with other people. Bi'idhnillah. This is a war. And it's a war with an army. Allah Azza wa Jal has His army, and Iblis has his army. Allah Azza wa Jal says, فَكُبْكِبُوا فِيهَا هُمْ وَالْغَاوُونَ وَجُنُودُ إِبْلِيسَ أَجْمَعُونَ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, the junud of Iblis, which is the army of Iblis. Iblis is not alone. He has an army. This is a war where allegiance is pledged. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, الذين آمنوا يقاتلون في سبيل الله والذين كفروا يقاتلون في سبيل الطاغوت فقاتلوا أولياء الشيطان. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, فقاتلوا أولياء الشيطان. Allah Azza wa Jalla didn't say, fight Shaytan. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, قاتلوا, the ones who pledge allegiance to Shaytan. This is a war where military operations are sent out. The Prophet ﷺ said, إِنَّ لِإِبْلِيسَ كُرْسِيًّا فَوْقَ الْمَاءِ يَبْعَثُ سَرَايَاهُ. That Iblis has a chair, a throne